My beloved soul, listen carefully. Heaven has seen your tears. Every silent cry that fell in the darkness when no one else understood. Every whispered prayer you barely had strength to speak. And this message is not an accident. It is a divine interruption. My beloved soul, listen carefully, because what I am about to say is not hype. It is not emotion. It is revelation. A shift is happening in your soulmate spirit, and heaven wants you to know before it manifests in the natural. You were led here on purpose. This is not a coincidence. Before you hear another word, do this as an act of faith, not promotion, but obedience. Type "I receive this" in the comments. Like this video as a sign that your heart is open. Subscribe to this channel because God is aligning you with consistent confirmation. Click the bell so you do not miss what heaven is releasing. And if you feel led, send a super thanks as a prophetic act of faith, sealing this word over your life. Do it reverently, do it believing, because heaven is watching and God has not forgotten you. My beloved soul, the tears you thought were wasted have been collected by the Father. Psalm 56:8 says that He keeps your tears in a bottle. That means none of your heartbreak evaporated into nothing. None of your lonely nights were ignored. None of your confusion went unseen. While you were asking why, heaven was arranging when. You were questioning the silence. God was working behind it. There is movement in the spirit realm concerning your love story. There is a stirring in the heart of the one connected to your destiny. Something is breaking off of them. Something is awakening within them, and it is not by accident. My beloved soul, do not skip this moment, because what you are hearing is confirmation of prayers you prayed months ago. You asked God to heal them, to mature them, to remove fear from them, to align them with truth. You thought nothing was happening, but heaven was operating in secret. Just because you did not see change does not mean change was not unfolding. God's timing is not your timing. Ecclesiastes 3:1 says He makes everything beautiful in its time. Not your time, not their time, but His time. And now something is shifting. You felt it, didn't you? A subtle peace where anxiety used to live. A strange hope rising where disappointment once ruled. That is not imagination. That is spiritual alignment. My beloved soul, stay with me till the end. Something powerful is waiting for you. The enemy tried to convince you that you were foolish for believing, that you should shut your heart down, that you should settle or walk away from the promise entirely. But deep inside, something would not let you give up. That was not obsession. That was discernment. Because when God writes a connection, even distance cannot erase it. Even silence cannot kill it. Even pride cannot permanently block it. Heaven is watching over what heaven ordained. But listen carefully, because this shift is not only happening in them, it is happening in you. Before your soulmate could be awakened, you had to be strengthened. Before they could be softened, you had to be healed. The waiting season was not punishment. It was preparation. God was removing insecurity from you. He was teaching you identity. He was showing you that you are whole even before the union manifests. My beloved soul, you cried not just for love but for clarity. You cried not just for reunion but for righteousness. And heaven heard the purity of your request. So Psalm 34:18 says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted." That means when you were on your bed, wiping tears with the back of your hand, He was closer than ever. When you felt forgotten by the one you love, you were not forgotten by God. And now the same God who comforted you is confronting what stands in the way of your promise. There is conviction entering your soulmate spirit. There is remembrance rising in their heart. They cannot escape the thought of you, because it is not merely memory. It is divine imprint. My beloved soul, do not leave yet. Heaven has more to reveal. The shift happening is deeper than emotion. It is spiritual realignment. Walls are coming down that you did not build and could not tear down. Fear is being exposed. Pride is being humbled. Distractions are losing their flavor. The very things that once pulled them away are starting to feel empty. Why? Because when God begins to move, substitutes lose their power. You have been asking, God, are you doing anything? And he whispers back, I am doing more than you know. Isaiah 60:22 says, when the time is right, I the Lord will make it happen. Not slowly, not partially, but suddenly. The shift you are sensing will not remain hidden forever. There will be signs. There will be communication. There will be change in tone, change in posture, change in pursuit. But before the external shift becomes visible, the internal transformation must complete its work. My beloved soul, hear this clearly. The waiting was protecting you. If they had come before this shift, they would have hurt you again. If reunion had happened before maturity, it would have collapsed under the weight of unhealed wounds. So heaven delayed what your heart wanted to preserve what your destiny required. That is not rejection. That is mercy. Stay with me, because if you remain till the end, the final word will change everything. You are not crazy for sensing movement. You are not naive for holding faith. The Holy Spirit has been nudging you with small confirmations, repeating numbers, unexpected memories, dreams that felt more real than imagination. This is not superstition. This is spiritual sensitivity. God has been preparing both of you on separate altars. While you were surrendering control, they were being confronted with truth. While you were learning peace, they were learning value. While you were releasing fear, they were recognizing loss. Heaven is watching, and heaven is orchestrating. My beloved soul, the shift in your soulmate spirit began the moment you finally surrendered them to God completely. The moment you said, Lord, even if it is not them, I trust you. That was the turning point. Because surrender gives God permission to move. When you stopped idolizing the outcome, God began activating the promise. Romans 8:28 declares that all things work together for good to those who love God and are called according to his purpose. That includes the silence. That includes the delay. That includes the confusion. Nothing was wasted. Nothing slipped through his hands. My beloved soul, do not grow weary now. Galatians 6:9 says, do not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time you will reap a harvest if you do not give up. The proper time is approaching. You are closer than you think. The heaviness you felt for months is lifting because the spiritual resistance is breaking. Chains of misunderstanding are snapping. Lies they believed about themselves are being exposed, and as their identity heals, their capacity to love you correctly increases. Stay attentive, because this is sacred. You are not waiting on a fantasy. You are witnessing divine timing. The tears you cried watered the soil of transformation, and now the seed is pushing through the ground. My beloved soul, stay anchored for a few more moments, because what is unfolding is delicate and holy. The shift happening in your soulmate spirit is not loud, but it is undeniable. It is like dawn replacing night, gradual yet unstoppable. You may not see the sun at midnight, but that does not mean morning is not scheduled. God has scheduled restoration. God has scheduled clarity, has scheduled a conversation that will answer questions you have carried for too long. And when it happens, you will realize why it could not happen sooner. Because both of you needed to become who you are now becoming. The old versions of you could not sustain the love you prayed for, but the healed versions can. My beloved soul, listen carefully as we approach this prophetic climax. Heaven has seen your tears, and heaven is responding. Not with crumbs, not with confusion, but with alignment. The shift in your soulmate spirit is preparing them to step forward differently, to speak differently, to choose differently. And when they do, it will not feel forced. It will feel peaceful. It will feel certain, because what God restores, he restores with stability. This is your confirmation. You were led here on purpose. God has not forgotten you. The waiting season is closing. The shift is real. The breakthrough is near. Breathe in peace. Release fear. Stand in faith. What you prayed for is closer than it has ever been. And as surely as heaven has counted your tears, heaven will honor your patience. I declare over you now, restoration is rising, alignment is activating, and divine love is stepping into its appointed time. Remain steady, my beloved soul. The promise is alive, the shift is happening, and what God has written over your love story will not fail. My beloved fed soul, as this revelation continues to unfold, I need you to quiet every voice of doubt that tries to interrupt this sacred moment. What is happening in your soulmate spirit is not surface emotion. It is deep internal awakening. The same God who allowed distance to teach you surrender is now allowing conviction to teach them responsibility. You must understand this. Heaven does not rush transformation. When God shifts a heart, He does it thoroughly. He does it in layers. He does it in ways that cannot be reversed by mood or pride. That is why the change will be different this time. It will not be temporary effort. It will not be emotional reaction. It will be spiritual realization. My beloved soul, stay attentive to this word, because there is something weighty being released. The one connected to your destiny is beginning to feel the absence of your presence differently. Where they once felt relief in distraction, they now feel emptiness. Where they once justified distance, they now feel conviction. This is not manipulation, this is divine awakening. Proverbs 20:27 says, "The spirit of a man is the lamp of the Lord, searching all the inner depths of his heart." God is searching them. God is illuminating places inside them that they avoided for years. He is exposing wounds they masked with pride. He is revealing fears they disguised as independence. And as that light shines, the truth about you rises with it. My beloved soul, do not disconnect now. There is more heaven wants you to grasp. The shift is not only about reunion, it is about readiness. You prayed for a love that reflects Christ. You prayed for a partner who honors covenant. You prayed for peace, not chaos, and God heard the depth of that request. Ephesians 3:20 reminds us that He is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all we ask or imagine. That means what is being prepared is greater than what you envisioned in your most hopeful moments. But listen carefully, because this next part is delicate. The enemy tried to distort your waiting season by whispering that delay means denial, that silence means disinterest, that distance means replacement. But heaven is correcting that lie right now. Delay was construction, silence was surgery, distance was detox. God was removing toxic patterns from both of you, so that when the bridge reconnects, it does not collapse again. My beloved soul, remain present in this moment, because the Spirit is speaking softly, but powerfully. There are nights, recently, when they have thought about you without distraction. There are moments when your name crosses their mind unexpectedly. There are reminders, songs, places, memories that suddenly carry new weight. That is not coincidence. That is conviction meeting memory. And when conviction meets memory, transformation begins to accelerate. Isaiah 43:19 says, "Behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it?" You are beginning to perceive it. That subtle shift in your spirit is confirmation. The anxiety that once consumed you has been replaced with a strange calm. That calm is prophetic. It is the peace of Philippians 4:7, the peace that surpasses understanding, guarding your heart and mind. My beloved soul, do not grow impatient now. What God is aligning must be protected by your faith, not pressured by your fear. Every time you choose trust over control, you strengthen the foundation of what is coming. Every time you release the outcome into God's hands, you accelerate divine order. Because surrender is not weakness, it is warfare. And you have been fighting in the Spirit with your obedience. Hear this clearly. The shift in your soulmate spirit includes clarity about their own identity. They are beginning to see where they sabotaged love. They are recognizing patterns that pushed you away. They are confronting the insecurity that made them inconsistent, and this realization is not comfortable for them. Growth rarely is, but discomfort is evidence of development. My beloved soul, heaven is watching how you respond in this final stretch. Will you trust even when you cannot trace every detail? Will you remain gentle when you feel tempted to guard your heart with walls instead of wisdom? Remember, healed does not mean hardened. God did not restore you just to make you emotionally unavailable. He restored you so that when love returns correctly, you can receive it without fear. Psalm 126:5 says, "Those who sow in tears will reap in joy." Your tears were seeds, and harvest season does not ask permission before arriving. It simply comes when the time is fulfilled. There is an appointed moment approaching when communication will shift from surface to sincere, when avoidance will be replaced by vulnerability, when excuses will be replaced by accountability. And when that moment arrives, you will recognize it immediately because it will carry peace, not confusion. My beloved soul, do not forget that heaven is invested in covenant more than you are. God is not careless with hearts that seek Him. If this connection is written by Him, it cannot be erased by human weakness. If it is not written by Him, He will replace it with something far greater. Either way, you win when you trust. But this word is not random. You are led here because alignment is unfolding. The heaviness in your chest that lingered for months is dissolving. The urge to force answers is fading. You are stepping into rest. And rest is the soil where miracles grow. The shift in your soulmate spirit is mirroring the stability forming in yours. As you matured spiritually, they began to feel the difference energetically. As you healed emotionally, the spiritual tie recalibrated. This is not obsession. This is alignment under divine authority. My beloved soul, prepare your heart, not with fantasy, but with faith. Do not rehearse old arguments in your mind. Do not anticipate old disappointments. The version of them that hurt you is being dismantled. The version of you that tolerated less than you deserved is already gone. That is why reunion, if ordained, will not resemble the past. It will feel new. It will feel balanced. It will feel intentional. And if there are conversations ahead, they will not be chaotic. They will be clarifying. God is not restoring confusion. He is restoring order. 1 Corinthians 14:33 says, God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. And peace will mark this next chapter. My beloved soul, hold this prophecy gently but firmly. Do not announce it to skeptics. Do not expose it to negativity. Protect it in prayer. Cover it in worship. Seal it in gratitude. Because what heaven is birthing must be shielded from doubt. The shift happening in your soulmate spirit is irreversible. Once awakening reaches a certain depth, there is no returning to ignorance. They cannot unsee what God is revealing. They cannot unfeel the conviction stirring inside them. And when realization matures into action, movement will follow. I declare over you now, the season of silent suffering is ending. The season of visible alignment is beginning. The prayers you whispered through tears are rising as testimonies. The nights you felt alone are becoming evidence of divine intimacy. Heaven has seen your tears. Heaven has honored your patience. And heaven is moving on your behalf. Remain steady, my beloved soul. Do not rush the unfolding. Do not fear the process. The shift is real. The awakening is active. And what is meant for you is drawing closer with every obedient breath you take. Trust the timing. Trust the transformation. Trust the God who never wastes pain. What you prayed for is not disappearing. It is developing. And very soon you will look back at this waiting season and realize it was the bridge, not the barrier. Peace is settling over your spirit. Even now, hope is rising again. And divine love, refined and matured, is approaching its appointed hour. My beloved soul, as you stand in this sacred pause between promise and manifestation, heaven is asking you to breathe deeper than fear and believe stronger than memory. The shift happening in your soulmate spirit is no longer fragile. It is forming structure. What began as subtle conviction is becoming undeniable clarity. They are starting to recognize that what they walked away from was not ordinary. It was ordained. The laughter you shared, the understanding that required no explanation, the way your presence felt like home. These memories are no longer distant echoes. They are living witnesses inside their heart. And when God allows remembrance to return with weight, it is because He is preparing decision. My beloved soul, guard your peace in this hour. The enemy would love to agitate you just before fulfillment. He would love to resurrect insecurity right before confirmation. But heaven is covering your mind. Isaiah 26:3 declares that God will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are stayed on Him. Keep your thoughts anchored in truth, not assumption. Keep your heart rooted in faith, not fear, because what is shifting in them requires stability in you. You cannot meet transformation with turbulence. You must meet it with calm authority. My beloved soul, do not drift from this word. There is a holy gravity in this moment. The same God who parted seas and resurrected hope is orchestrating internal change in someone you once cried over. That alone should remind you that nothing is impossible when heaven intervenes. The conversations they avoided are now confronting them internally. The feelings they suppressed are now rising without permission. The future they tried not to imagine is now appearing in quiet thoughts. And in those thoughts you are present, not as pressure, not as fantasy, but as truth. This is not coincidence. You were led here on purpose. Heaven is confirming what your spirit sensed before your eyes could see it. My beloved soul, something powerful is unfolding beneath the surface. So do not step away now. The shift is not dramatic yet, but it is decisive. God is recalibrating their priorities. Things that once felt urgent to them are losing urgency. Ambitions that once distracted them are being rearranged. Because when God begins preparing a heart for covenant, He reorganizes desire. Psalm 37:4 says, "Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart." Sometimes that scripture does not mean He gives you what you desire, but that He shapes your desires to align with His will. That shaping is happening right now in their spirit. They are beginning to desire what is healthy. They are beginning to crave what is stable. They are beginning to long for what is real. And you represent that reality. My beloved soul, you must resist the urge to measure progress by visible signs alone. Faith does not operate by constant updates. Faith rests in unseen movement. Hebrews 11:1 says, "Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen." You are holding evidence in the spirit before it appears in the natural. And that is why your peace has increased. That is why your desperation has decreased. That is why you no longer feel the need to chase. Because what God ordains does not require pursuit rooted in panic. It requires patience rooted in trust. My beloved soul, let me speak deeper into your heart. There were moments when you questioned your worth because of how things unfolded. You wondered if you were too much or not enough. You replayed conversations searching for where you went wrong. But hear this clearly. Their inability to recognize your value at the time was a reflection of their immaturity, not your insufficiency. God allowed distance so that you would stop shrinking yourself to fit someone unhealed. He allowed silence so that you would learn to hear His voice more clearly. And now, as He restores your confidence, He is restoring their vision. They are beginning to see you differently. Not through ego, not through fear, but through growth. My beloved soul, remain attentive, because heaven is still speaking. The shift in your soulmate spirit includes humility. They are recognizing the cost of pride. They are understanding the weight of what they almost lost. And humility is the gateway to lasting change. James 4:6 says, "God gives grace to the humble." Grace is entering their heart, grace to admit wrong, grace to confront fear, grace to choose differently. And when grace and conviction work together, transformation becomes permanent. My beloved soul, this is the hour to prepare your heart for healthy reception. Do not rehearse rejection in your imagination. Do not build defensive walls in anticipation of apology. Instead, strengthen your boundaries with wisdom and wrap your expectations in prayer. Because if restoration unfolds, it must unfold in righteousness. God is not bringing you back into confusion. He is aligning you with covenant clarity. The next interaction will not feel like guessing. It will feel grounded. It will carry sincerity in tone and steadiness in action. And you will discern the difference immediately because your spirit is more mature now. My beloved soul, heaven has seen your tears, and those tears have become testimony in the courts of God. They were not signs of weakness. They were evidence of depth. You loved deeply. You hoped sincerely. You prayed consistently. And God honors hearts that seek Him above outcome. The shift happening in your soulmate spirit is not simply about romance. It is about divine timing, fulfilling purpose. Two individuals refined separately, prepared intentionally, aligned strategically. Ecclesiastes 4:9 says, "Two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor." But that return requires readiness, and readiness is what heaven has been cultivating in both of you. My beloved soul, do not allow impatience to interrupt what perseverance has built. You are standing at the edge of answered prayer. The heaviness that once pressed on your chest has lifted because spiritual warfare has weakened. The resistance that once delayed communication is dissolving. There will be movement. There will be honesty. There will be clarity. But even before those external signs appear, you are already witnessing the miracle internally. You are no longer begging God for reassurance. You are resting in expectation. That shift in you mirrors the shift in them. My beloved soul, let this final declaration settle deeply within you. What God restores, He restores with increase. What God aligns, He aligns with purpose. What God promises, He fulfills with peace. The waiting season shaped you into someone who will not settle for less than divine order, and the awakening happening in your soulmate spirit is shaping them into someone capable of honoring what God has given. Trust this sacred unfolding. Trust the quiet work of heaven. Trust that the same God who collected your tears is now releasing answers. The reunion, if written, will not be chaotic. It will be calm. It will be intentional. It will be marked by growth. And if for any reason God redirects you beyond this connection, it will only be because something greater is prepared. Either way, you are not losing. You are aligning. My beloved soul, rest tonight knowing this. Heaven is watching. God has not forgotten you. And the shift is no longer distant. It is active. The prayers you whispered in brokenness are rising as fulfillment. The love you asked for is being refined, not removed. And very soon, what once felt uncertain will stand before you with clarity. Until that moment arrives, remain faithful, remain peaceful, remain expectant. The God who began this story is faithful to complete it. And what He has written over your heart will unfold at the appointed hour, with stability, with sincerity, and with divine peace that confirms this was worth the wait. My beloved soul, as this word comes to its sacred close, let assurance wrap around you like a mantle of light. The shift is not a rumor in the spirit. It is reality unfolding. What heaven has stirred cannot be undone by fear or delayed by doubt. Stand still and know that He is God. The tears have been counted, the prayers have been recorded, and the answer is nearer than it has ever been. I declare peace over your heart, clarity over your path, and divine fulfillment over your love story. What you asked for in faith is approaching in God's perfect, beautiful time. Type, Amen.